I thank the gentleman. I now recognize the Vice Chair of the TARP and Financial Services and Bailouts Subcommittee, Mr. Guinta of New Hampshire, for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Katz, thank you, and thank all of the witnesses for being here today. I wanted to direct my first question to you, sir. In your testimony, you talked about the size, structure, and complexity of the U.S. capital markets and financial companies that have grown substantially in the past 30 years. And I think what your position is that you're comparing the SEC over that same period of time and the fact that it has not grown or changed or modified substantially. But I wanted to get a little clarification on that first, if you would.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, obviously, I think everybody would agree that the capital markets of today are, exponentially greater. But my point was more directed to the way the SEC is structured. And it's not just a question of size. It's a question of a structure that corresponds to the entities you're regulating. And the point I was making is that in the early 1970s, when basically the current organizational structure of the SEC was last reformed, you had a division of market regulation that focused on stock exchanges and broker-dealers. And you had a division of investment management regulation, which focused on mutual funds and investment advisors. And there were two very separate components of the industry, and there really was very little overlap. That no longer exists. Because of consolidation in the industry and the blending of the roles, the fundamental distinction between a stockbroker who is a commission-based seller of securities and an investment advisor who is an asset under management advisor on a comprehensive portfolio is a historical artifact. It doesn't exist. But because you have two divisions applying two different laws, according to a model that no longer exists, you get these anomalies. The fight over fiduciary duty differential. Now, it was embedded in the laws. But more importantly, you had two different divisions who had different ways of thinking about it, and neither of them wanted to compromise. They both wanted to maintain their piece of it.
And does that speak a little bit to the silo effect that
Absolutely.
we've been referring to?
I used to joke that the silos at the SEC were so real that, in fact, they had locked doors. And that because all the paper in the agency used to have to come through my office, I actually had a skeleton key that occasionally allowed me to unlock each of the silo doors and get inside it. But most people don't. And turf is a real issue in any organization, no matter what the size. And it's compounded because, remember, you've got different securities laws that were written at different points of time for different segments of the industry. And each division sort of jealously guards the law that it controls. The market's changed.
Well, I listened to what Chairman Shapiro mentioned in her earlier comments about some of the improvements and modifications and changes that she's made, and they sound laudable and responsible. That being said, I wonder what type of congressional action may or may not be necessary given the systemic problem that we have seen within the SEC. And I don't want to get into the specifics, but the things that we've been talking about here, and we have to prevent these from happening again. People in our nation need to have confidence, not just in the SEC, but in the markets as well. And I wonder, sir, what you could say about the type of intervention you feel Congress should be considering.
Well, that's a very difficult question for me to answer. And the reason is because, look, I spent virtually my entire career at the SEC. And I think it's very difficult for Congress to micromanage the internal organization and operations of a government agency. You can set policy, you can give direction. But I think it's dangerous when Congress tells the agency, this is how you get it done. I think the agency really has to take this responsibility on. And Chairman Shapiro has brought in an entirely new team of senior people. I don't know most of them. They seem very competent. My hesitation is this. If you rely exclusively on a team of people coming in to effect change, when those people walk out the door, the change walks out with them. You need to change the structure. You need to change the culture. And most importantly, you need the agency to define what it is it's trying to do and how do you measure whether it's gotten it done. You need that discipline.
Thank you.
But that's for the agency to do.
Thank you, sir. Chairman Shapiro, I only have a few seconds left, but what assurance can you give us that that new management team is effectively managing and maintaining the necessary changes?
Well, I have to say, I think change starts with leadership, absolutely, and having a whole new leadership team makes an enormous difference. But they are very committed to working together and institutionalizing cooperation and collaboration among all the divisions. So, for example, we now have colleges of regulators for the largest financial institutions. It's no longer just the Trading and Markets Division that looks at them. It's no longer just the examination group. There is a group of people drawn from all over the agency who could have potentially an interest in the health of that financial institution, who meet regularly to talk about what's going on in that company, to look at the financials, to meet with the staff of that financial institution. So College of Regulators is just one example. We have task forces across the agency. We're merging in some of our offices, and will eventually in all of them, our examination programs for investment advisors and broker-dealers, which Mr. Katz mentioned. And I should finally say that we have just commissioned, and I believe it's even going to be released today, Dodd-Frank required us to hire an independent consultant to do a very in-depth study of the SEC's organizational structure, and that will be released today. And I fully expect that there will be some really helpful ideas there for us to further improve how we operate.
Gentleman's time.